All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 24th, 2020 Technical Assistance Workshops for the Rethinking School Safe Return to Site-Based Classroom Instruction team. And my name is Mike Grant. I'm at the County Office of Education, and I'm here today with Melina Boyd and Michelle Drake and Janelle Campbell, all members of our Rethinking Schools team. And because we have gone through all of the 30 guidelines to some degree, today's workshop and next Friday's workshop is really set up as just a general discussion, any topics or concerns that any of the participants have. We really want to make it kind of an open dialogue. We understand and acknowledge that right now, today, based on everything that's happened in the past week with the state and last week's announcement by our public health officer, that the kind of hot topics of the day are: how do I get a waiver to the state guidelines? Let's talk about learning pods. What about childcare and robust distance learning? Those are kind of hot topics, but that's not what this is for. What this technical assistant workshop is focused on is when the day comes when we return to site-based classroom instruction, what can we do to make sure we're implementing the guidelines and our site-specific protection plans in the most effective way to help support the health and safety of our students and our staff, and also make the students, staff, and families feel comfortable and confident and safe that that our health and safety is the highest priority. So that's really what the focus is. And so what I'd like to do, maybe Melina, if you could take the slide off and open it up to a bunch of beautiful faces of the participants. You're welcome to turn on the video so we can see you. You don't have to, but I'd like to just open it up to see if anyone has any questions or requests about topics to jump into. Okay, and I'm going to open up the chat so I can see that too. Okay, so there was a request to talk about the cohort size when we're able to return to in-person instructions. And yes, the guidelines remain in place. That the June 18th guidelines remain in place. So our understanding right now, given what we know today, is that as soon as our county is off of the watch list for 14 days, and the state allows us to return to site-based classroom instructions, that the public health officer's recommendations of June 18th around cohort size is in place. And so that really speaks to guidelines number 10, 11, and 12. Well, it's really 11 and 12, and the classroom size is up to standard class size at each respective grade level for elementary school. And for middle school and high school, larger cohorts made up of students from more than one classroom may be arranged, as long as accurate attendance data is maintained for students and adults. So yeah, so if you want to raise your hand or put something in the chat, can you talk about item 29 in a bit more detail? Okay, can you bring up item 29, Melina? Yeah, so this is a fairly significant shift in what used to be normal school operations. This is non-essential visitors, including parent volunteers, will be limited, and essential workers will be required to adhere to all health and safety guidelines. So I know that in a lot of school settings, parent volunteers, or even guests from outside agencies, community-based organizations may come in to lead a certain topic. And I'm thinking about what's coming to mind for me is like a program called Get Ready Fifth Grade, where a member of the community, typically from the CERT team, this community emergency response team, a volunteer would come in and teach fifth graders about emergency preparedness and lead an activity in that. So that would be considered a non-essential visitor. It's not that that curriculum or content is any less important, but that would likely be delivered either remotely, or the Get Ready Fifth Grade team would support the teacher in delivering the content to the students. Same thing with parent volunteers. In our setting here at the Marin County Office of Education, when someone's here to service the copy machines or to work on the HVAC system, they have to go through an individual point of contact, myself or some other identified person, who makes sure that they understand when they walk in the building's locked now, and when they walk in the building, they have to agree to follow physical distancing, wearing face coverings, and all of our other health and safety guidelines. Does that cover that for? Are there any other questions on number? That was from Casey. Okay. And I'm seeing here, standard class size doesn't allow for the CDC guidelines and state mandate for 6 feet of social distance. Thank you, Jennifer. And yeah, so this is obviously a very sensitive and controversial guideline, I would say. And what I would say is that the state, it's not a mandate, it's a recommendation from the state, and it's to the degree practicable or when feasible. And I think that the new emphasis, if you read closely the state guideline that was just released on July 17th, it really emphasizes the importance of adults maintaining that 6 feet and adults with students maintaining the 6 feet. It's as practicable for students. And so we know, based on classroom size, that a standard classroom cannot be occupied with a standard number of students while maintaining 6 feet of distance. We know that. And so, you know, the 4-foot distancing, Dr. Willis has gone into great detail why he has given the guidance that that is permissible, given all the other safety procedures that are in place, which is primarily wearing face coverings, washing hands, maximizing airflow, all those things. So, and there's this, he's called it a continuum of risk about how droplets fall off. So, some countries, the World Health Organization, have 1 meter as the physical distancing. The CDC and the state has encouraged 6 feet as practicable. So, you know, and what we can do is, you know, there's actually in the public health discussions, there is about a 3 to 5 minute section where Dr. Willis covers this in great detail and with much more scientific rigor than I can right now. But I would encourage you to review that. It's on our website, and he speaks to it is much better than I can. And okay, so there's a question from Veronica about, and you know what I want to say is I want to make this a discussion. I feel like it's an error. So anyone can unmute themselves and ask the question too. I'm giving, you know, we have a small enough group here where we can make it a discussion, but I'll continue to use the chat. But also I want to welcome anyone to unmute themselves and jump in. So Jennifer's asking, how can you do the 4 feet in a typical classroom? So, you know, this really gets to so the typical classroom is 960 square feet. There are some older buildings and that have smaller or bigger classrooms, but when a new build, you know, the standard size is 960 square feet. So it's literally going into the classroom. It's clearing out as much clutter as you can, the couches and the, you know, the cabinets and the stuff that often fills our classrooms up, and literally going in with a tape measure and marking with tape, you know, the 4-foot distancing. And so it can be done. We've seen it. It can be done. And it also takes attention to close. It takes really a close attention to detail about what we can do to declutter classroom and maximize the use of the space. Okay, anyone want to unmute and give a verbal question?
You know what, Mike, there was one question just before that one about, let's see, I just lost it. It says, can you please clarify number 24, mask regulations with the new guidance?
Yes, so thank you. So this is one that will be updated. So we, based on the state's guidance, the governor's announcement, and the California Department of Public Health's updated guidance for classrooms, there's going to be some fine tuning and updating on our local public health officers' guidance. And number 24 is one of them. And so it will read, after further review, all staff as well as students 3rd grade to 12th grade are required to wear face coverings while in a classroom on campus. And students from TK to 2nd grade will be highly encouraged to wear face coverings if they can do it properly. And there's some language there that for the younger kids that a face shield may be an alternative if the face covering can't be worn properly. So there's some really cute kind of face shields with designs and costumes on them, and so that may be an option for the younger children, TK through 2nd grade. So that will be updated after Public Health has had a chance to review it. Okay.
The next question was, does the new data from South Korea that children 10 to 18 can spread the COVID as the same as adults affect that guideline? I think this was going back to the other guideline.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I know data's coming out literally every day, every week, and some of the data is conflicting. And, I know, yesterday the CDC came out with updated guidelines that are more, I think, aggressively encouraging the opening of schools. I haven't, there's many links. If you haven't done so already, I would go to the CDC guidance that was updated yesterday, July 23rd, and read through it. They've taken some stuff out that used to be there, and they've added some new language, and but yeah, in terms of the new data coming from around the world, I know, and we can say with confidence that our public health officer is taking in the new data, the new studies, the new research, and will be incorporating that into any new guidance that we receive. Our guidance from public health remains the same. Okay, and then I see Becky, temperature check. So this is a good one, because thank you, Becky, for bringing this up. So we had a little internal debate here because we heard the governor's statement was you got to do temperature checks. That he stated that in kind of no uncertain terms. But then if you look at the backup of the California Department of Public Health, their guidance, it's more permissive. So they basically say, if you choose to take temperatures, use a no-touch thermometer, basically. So our recommended update, see which guideline is this? This has to do with the daily health screening. Can you? Number 6, yeah. So what we anticipate is that we're going to have a little bit more detail on guideline number 6 that calls out the use of thermometers, and depending on what our public health officer says, it may either be required or be more permissive. But if you do it, use a no-touch thermometer, because that's what the California Department of Public Health updated guidelines say.
And then this was a comment. It says children ages 10 to 19 have been shown to express the gene ACE2 the same as adults, thus being able to spread and get COVID the same as adults. So thank you for that information, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that, Anna Harris. With 4 feet, our classrooms fit a maximum of 15 students, but as soon as someone has to move, for example, getting up to use the bathroom, that distance is now invaded. Given the new information about spread in children 10 or older, how does that impact the cohort size for middle and high schools being 100 students?
Yeah, what I'll just say is we'll just follow whatever public health says. This is something that, is, again, the data is changing every day. We're going to go to Dr. Willis and Dr. Santora for this guidance. And right now the guidelines stand as they are. And you know, and you know, this also goes to you know, so if a classroom can't fit more than 15 students, you know, what are the other options? This is where the use of outdoor space is something I know that Dr. Willis has really encouraged as a significant culture change. And this goes back to, you know, the Spanish flu of 1918 and classes being taught outside. And so we had at our technical assistance workshop last week, we had some great information that was brought forth by Max Corden at the Marin County Parks. And we know that we have in Marin County, we are blessed with a lot of parks and outdoor space that can be used for instruction. And we know that, you know, weather is going to be a part of that and air quality, but this is something that every school should really look hard at. This is guideline number 19, use of outdoor space.
The next question from Jennifer: who will be responsible for enforcing the mask and social distance policy?
I would say everybody. I mean, we have a group of students who we've been working with who, you know, have told us that they would hold each other accountable. So, you know, just like in our office here, there's some people who, you know, don't wear them or it slips below the nose, and we have to remind each other. But I would say, yeah, it's a community effort. There's not, you know, nobody wants to be the face covering police, but it's something that is a shared responsibility. And there is even language there's even language in this updated state guidance that if there are students who refuse to, or, you know, that they're going to be assigned to distance learning. I can't identify exactly the place that is, but I think it's in the California Department of Public Health guidelines that is an option for students who refuse to wear face coverings. But yeah, it's a community effort. The only way we can do it together, we need to hold each other accountable, and every person on the campus, students, staff. And part of it, and we've heard this from you know, programs that have been operating over the summer and in the spring, is that part of it is the training about the why, and getting the buy-in from the students and getting the support of the students, and to have them help you know, understand why it's so important in containing the spread and transmission of COVID-19.
And Mike, do you want to speak to the videos that the students were working with regards to the students, what they're doing?
Yeah, so there's a newly emerging video series. There's a group of students in Marin County high school and middle school students who've approached our superintendent and requested to meet with district leaders about what they can do to help support the health and safety of the school community and get back to school. They want to get back to class, and what can we do to help? And so we just started. Are they on our website, Michelle?
Not that I'm aware of. No,
I think, yeah, so we're going to get them on our website. They just did the first couple series that's focused on physical distancing and how to wear a mask properly, and the importance of wearing masks, and how if we all do this together, we can overcome this virus and eliminate it from our community. But it's every person doing their part. So we'll be seeing those videos. We'll have a series that'll go out, and we hope to spread through social media, and the first few that I've seen have been great.
The next question is from Sheila. Mike, are there limits on the number of adults we can have in one room at one time? I'm thinking about faculty meetings and trainings in August. Of course, we'd meet in large spaces, i.e. the gym, and with 6 feet between us. But I'm just wondering if a specific maximum number exists.
Yeah, that's a great question, Sheila. You know, I think it probably goes back to the May public health order, the shelter in place order. There may be a number. I can't recall it. I think it's 25, but it may be 15. And we'll try to get clarity on that. I don't have it right now, but I think that large gatherings, you know, one of the guidelines talks about no large gatherings. It's number 18. And so I would say, I know for our back to school planning, we're planning on doing most of it remotely, and we're keeping our meetings of staff here very small, probably 8 people or something like that. And I think the more that we can, keep our gatherings small, the better off we all are. So I would, I'll see if we can find the public health order guidance on it. I think they limit it pretty significantly.
The next one is from Anna. Has MCOE started setting up agreements with local parks and other businesses to set up outdoor classrooms?
MCOE has not, but I would encourage everyone to look at your school site. And like, in other words, MCOE schools are fairly limited. In other words, we have three or four special education campuses. We have classrooms at district sites. We have our Marin's Community School campus here at MCOE. And we know that for our Marin's Community School campus, there are 3 city parks within a quarter-mile walk that are great spaces for outdoor learning. We have not ventured to make agreements with them, but we know that they're available. We use one right behind our campus all the time, Bernard Hoffman Park, without any agreement or authorization needed. But I think that for each school, what would be beneficial is to look at your school site and see what's within walking distance and usable, and reach out to whoever that park jurisdiction is and see if there are any steps that would be needed to reserve space there, and obviously to coordinate it with your different classroom teachers so that not everyone's going there at the same time.
And there's a really great map that I'm going to put into the chat where you can click on specifically where your school location is, and it'll populate the various parks, and then it'll give you contact information and other really great information for you to contact the parks directly. So I'll put that in the chat. I just need to find it.
Yeah, and I see Micah on the call too, and I know like Slide Ranch is like such a gift of a place that Marin County is we're blessed to have so many incredible, kind of outdoor learning environments. And Slide Ranch is a little bit distant to most schools, and there's the transportation logistic, but I imagine that both county parks, open spaces, and places like the Headlands and Slide Ranch will have their arms open to schools who can get there to utilize their magnificent places for outdoor learning as well. Do you want to say anything, Micah? I can't, you're muted. Okay. Well, anyway, Slide Ranch is there, and I know that I'm imagining that they would love to have, groups of students come out and utilize that space. Are you there? Can you?
I'm here now.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, we are trying to figure out what the fall is going to look like, but definitely inviting schools to come where we might not offer the programs, but the schools might be available just to use the facilities. We have over 134 acres of land, typos, and about 15 minutes from Mill Valley, half an hour from San Rafael, so not too far.
Not too bad. And yeah. I know transportation can be a challenge, but it's such it's a spectacular natural setting that is a great classroom.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Then Ruth McDaniels, did you want to speak?
Hi, sure. Thanks so much for all the great information. I was just typing my question in case I didn't get called on, but I wanted to ask a little bit about the waiver process. I know you don't have a ton of information, but we were wondering a couple of things. One is, do you know when we might know more about that? And also just in terms of equity issues, if independent schools maybe have greater flexibility with space and outdoor spaces, lower student-teacher ratio, would that raise equity issues between independent schools and public schools who might not have that flexibility? And then the independent schools are getting waivers, and would the public schools not be getting them? And what would that do in terms of the inequity there? And just do you know when we might know more about it? Because we do have a ton of parents asking, and then we have as many staff and faculty with concerns. So just wondering when we might have those discussions.
Yeah, well, Ruth, thank you for the question, and it is really one of kind of the central questions that has come up in our community since the announcement was made last Friday, and I know that our public health officer Matt and Lisa are it's a statewide discussion right now, and that what the bottom line is the way that the California Department of Public Health have defined the waiver is, number one, it's for elementary schools, and number two, it requires consultation with with labor, with parents, and community organizations. So how that documentation is certified that consultation has taken place is something that I think has to happen at the state level. In order for Dr. Willis and Dr. Santora to, even consider an application. They're seeking clarity because we want to make sure that it's meeting the state guidelines. So my sense is that it's such a important topic that we're going to get guidance on it. Sometime in the next week or so, we'll get more clarity, and ultimately, what we're trying to do is understand what the process is for a school or district to apply for the waiver. And as soon as we have that, obviously we'll send it out to you. But I feel like it's got to be a short it's got to be a short timetable because school starts in a few weeks. And in terms of the equity issue, I agree with you. It's a big part of the discussion about how some schools may simply be able to afford the implementation of a waiver than others, and what's that going to look like. That will be part of the decision, I'm sure, from our public health officer.
Thank you so much. And then just to clarify, the waivers would only be for elementary, so not middle, not high school.
Yeah, that's the way it's written in the California Department of Public Health guidelines. It's a little footnote, but it just says for elementary schools. So.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And Mike, that'll be good to get clarification, because when I think her last name is pronounced Pon, with the California Department of Public Health, she and her conversation talked about it being K-8 school districts. So if you're considered an elementary school district, then might it apply to middle schools too? So that clarification is going to be helpful.
That's great. Thank you, Marcy. We'll make sure we add that into our conversation with public health as this topic moves forward.
Thank you.
The next question is from Peg. Are Moraine Public Middle Schools planning on staying in distance learning even when schools are permitted to open in-person learning? And so I think we just kind of touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess this will be a school by school and district by district decision. In other words, the guidance that was put out on June 18th is just that. It's guidance. It's not a mandate. Schools will have the ability to do what they need to do to best meet the needs of their students and parents and community. So I think this is going to be a district by district or school by school decision.
The next is a comment, but I'm hoping that Lisa might want to elaborate on this. We had a very successful ESY program, and we just gently reminded students to pull up their masks and stay 6 feet apart. We also explained why this was so important and a way of staying safe. Lisa, would you like to elaborate more on that for us?
Yes, we're at Compass Academy, and we do have 5 students. It's an elementary class that I'm in, and we just sat down and explained to them in the very beginning of ESY how important, staying safe, washing our hands 3-4 times a day, so that everybody stays, doesn't get sick or take it home to their, parents or grandparents. And they all understood. I think the parents did a great job of explaining it to them. When they were outside, sometimes if they were running around, we'd have to remind them to pull the mask back up. And we also, one thing we did to prepare the classroom is I went in and put frog tape. We have vinyl on the floor. So I put frog tape 6 feet around their desks. And I kind of made it fun. I said it was their zone, so they could kind of do what they wanted in their zone, but they needed to ask if they needed to go to the bathroom to leave their zone. And we also, the other thing we did to prepare the classroom is we took baggies and did individual things that they would only use, whether it was crayons, markers, pens, paper, so that they weren't trying to mingle with the other students. But I think it was great. We cleaned and sanitized and disinfected the rooms every day. And knock on wood, we've had nothing, come back negative about it.
That's great, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's that story that you just told is something we've heard over and over again, that as students learn about the why, they become much more supportive of, the what we need to do to help protect one another. So that reinforces that.
Mm-hmm. And if anybody ever wanted to come out and look at our classroom, I'd be more than, willing to meet them there so they could just kind of look. We've cleaned off all the counters and organized things so they're behind cabinets, so they're not just laying out.
That's great. Is Compass still operating, Lisa, or did you guys close?
No, we're done. It was just a month program.
Okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Sheila. She says, thanks, Mike, regarding the large meeting information. One follow-up question. Do you know if Marin County Public Schools are planning on having teachers be on site at all during the distance learning only time while we are still on the watch list? For example, doing distance learning from their classrooms. I'm considering having everyone be on site 1 day per week for collaboration and planning purposes. But other than that, we will leave the option to teachers whether they teach at home or school. Would love to hear what others are thinking along that line.
So Janelle, can you take this? I see Janelle is our special education director, and can you tell us what we're planning on our programs?
Yeah, for MCOE programs, we are planning to have our staff working from their classrooms for the distance learning from the start of the school year. That's for MCOE programs specifically.
Yeah, and my understanding is that's the same for our alternative education programs. What Dr. Willis has made clear is that, there's nothing sick about the buildings. We're keeping the buildings clean. And by having teachers in the classroom, they have, access to hopefully good, strong wireless, and they have all their classroom materials with them. And in some ways it can get the students used to the classroom as well. So I'm sure that every district is kind of making their plan how they're going to do that. Are there any other, district people on the line who can tell us what their plans are? Okay.
Well, I can just say for Ross Valley that there is no reason why any teacher would not be permitted to be in their classroom to provide distance learning. Absolutely. They have all their items there. In some cases, we did have teachers even in the spring working out of their classrooms. They were the only ones on the campus. They were in their classroom all by themselves, and they felt that provided them a better opportunity than trying to find in their homes a very small place. And some don't feel comfortable with having people view their own personal locations. So absolutely, unless we are shut down and not required or not able to have anybody on campus, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you, Marcy. And yeah, so we have encouraged it, and we found that it's healthy for teachers to be in their classrooms to get ready for the day that when students can return. And the other thing that I do want to point out that in light of both Dr. Willis's announcement and recommendations last Wednesday and the state's announcement and new guidelines on Friday, is that even with the governor's announcement and the CDC guidelines, Dr. Willis is still very clear that districts can choose to bring small groups of students into the classroom to get to know their new classroom environment, to conduct academic emotional assessments, to develop relationships with the kids. And so either individually or in small cohorts as we prepare. So, and this would this would not be considered classroom instruction. It would just be considered an orientation. And it may happen on the same day that distance learning is taking place with the class. So so that is still something that, works under our public health guidance.
And then Micah, thank you very much for sending your information on Slide Ranch. So that information is there for anyone who would like to look into that. And then the next question is regarding transportation, if we have an update on that.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a school transportation task force that's been meeting for the last few weeks, and we had an urgent request to get finalized guidance by the end of last week or the middle of last week. But then with all of the changes in guidance from our own public health and from about not returning to full site-based classroom instruction until after Labor Day, and then the announcement from the governor about not returning until the county has been off the watch list for 2 weeks, it pushed out the urgency of coming up with the final guidance for transportation. And so we're still working on it. It is challenging, I gotta say, just because we can all imagine maintaining physical distancing in a bus, what that does to capacities, but we're getting closer. We've had a preliminary review from public health, and we're working on finalizing guidance that we hope to have out at least, I would say, by early August. That would, go into effect after Labor Day at the earliest for schools that granted waivers, or if we're successful in meeting the 2 weeks off of the watch list. So we're getting closer. We're not there yet. As soon as we have that finalized and public health approves it, we will announce it to everybody.
Another comment from Micah. In our summer camps at Slide Ranch, we have discovered not all masks are made the same. Kids tend to wear them more if they fit well. We have a recommended list of brands. It would be great to offer them for free to low-income communities. Is anyone aware of any funding around that?
Yeah, I'm not sure of a specific fund for kids masks. I'd love to have one and promote it. I know that we are still expecting the California Office of Emergency Services has provided a big pallets full of personal protective equipment for both public, private, independent, and parochial schools. And we got our first load for public schools a couple weeks ago. Most of that's been distributed, and the private, independent, and parochial school shipment is in process right now. But the one thing that was missing from the public school allocation was the child sized cloth face mask. So we're still waiting on those. So there is some funding from the state. They're providing that, and they will be distributed once we get them. But I would say and I agree, I totally agree with Micah, is that if the masks fits well, kids will use them effectively, and I'm hoping the ones from the state fit well.
And then this question, I'm not sure we can answer, but what are those teachers supposed to, this is regarding the teachers in the classroom for distance learning. What are those teachers supposed to do with their own children? Oh, this is the first part of that question. What is the rationale for teachers having to be in the classroom? It should be an option, but there are still issues around the bathroom use and the ventilation.
I see the question. Yeah, so this is really, I think, a district level. This is a district level or school site-based decision. There's no requirement or guideline. There's just we've gotten an okay from public health. In our setting, it's worked really well to have our teachers teach from the classroom. So, I guess I feel like it's a local decision, and that's the way I'll leave that one. Our students are all happy to be back in the classroom. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so Ruth is asking, Micah, it sounds like you might have recommended brands of kids' masks. Did we understand that right? So if you want to send them to us, we can create a little spot on the website where there's recommended brands of kids masks that they wear. Okay, so it's you guys, it's 10:40, and I feel like the questions are kind of winding down.
You know what? There was one more in reference to the, and I don't think we have this answer. It was, and you did touch on this a little bit, but the exact size of the cohorts for the orientation days, do we have that number? Would it be 12, or do we even have that number yet?
Yeah, it wasn't defined. It's small groups, you know, and individual or small groups. So what does it say? It says, return to the classroom students individually or in small cohorts. So, you know, I think that was left open to local interpretation.
And then regarding teacher use of the humanity shields, are these recommended or permitted for all day using or just during instructional time? Oh, good. I was hoping you were going to put it on.
Okay, check it out. Here's my humanity shield. I just got it. I actually like it. To me, it's more comfortable than a mask. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, so this is what Dr. Santoro's told us is this is a reasonable alternative to a face mask, and it's actually fairly comfortable, and you can see my face, and it does fog up a little for me. I haven't put the soap on the inside or the defogger, but you know, they're not inexpensive. I think they're like, depending on how many you get, is it like $50 each, Melina? Yeah. So anyway.
But the prices do come down, obviously, with more.
Right, and then are the students allowed to wear face shields in place of masks? The answer is no, except for kindergarten, TK through second grade. There's new language in the California Department of Public Health that says if you know, children under, you know, second grade and lower aren't required to. They're highly encouraged to wear face coverings if they can wear them properly. If they can't wear them properly, they can wear a face shield. This is more than a face shield. It's the humanity shield because it's got the cloth catcher of droplets. So this would be okay for kids as well to wear all day. Okay. Anyone else want to throw out a suggestion or a recommendation or have a question?
Hey, Mike, it's Spencer here.
Hey, Spencer.
So you were just mentioning how the state guidelines were revised in terms of second grade and below. But I know normally in situations like this, you always have to go with the higher one, right? So like the county can be more restrictive. They can't be less restrictive. And at least in the current county guidance, it's more restrictive, right? With anyone above age 2.
Right.
Is Public Health in Marin planning to amend that so it aligns with the state, or do we need to stick with anybody above age 2?
You know, it's a great question, Spencer, and we actually have a drafted, slight revision to our guidelines based on the state guidelines, but we haven't had the chance to finalize that with Public Health yet. So as soon as we know, we're assuming that the state guidance will be adopted in Marin, but we have to have that conversation with Public Health.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
And then Mike, can I speak to a little bit about this upcoming professional development training?
Yes, please, Michelle.
So we are partnering with the Discovery Museum, with UC Berkeley, Youth and Arts, to create a 5-day professional development that is free for our educators. It's called My Place in the Watershed, a return of the river otters. We will be doing not only just the science-based learning, but also how to integrate the outdoors that are right there, outside of the classroom or outside of our students' classroom or homes. And then integrating the environmental science, integrating the stewardship, cultural relevant teaching, and then virtual learning. So what are best practices in reference to virtual distance learning, and integrating the arts. And so we would love for your teachers to join us. It's August 3rd to 7th. There's going to be various workshops. We have different schedules with sort of descriptions of what we're doing. So teachers can come for half a day, for a couple hours, and they can sort of pick and choose when they would like to come. And it's for all grade levels, TK to 12. So I just put the link in the chat, so we hope you can, and we also have the River Otter Ecology Project joining us. So thank you. Just wanted to share that information with you.
Thank you, Michelle. And then the other thing that I just wanted to, put a plug in for, and I don't know if you can put it in the chat, Michelle, is about the child care. There's a meeting next, is it next Friday?
The 29th, Wednesday the 29th.
Wednesday the 29th for the Marin Child Care Council is hosting on child care, updated child care provider guidance. So we've gotten a lot of questions, given that we're starting, that most schools that, in Marin will be starting with distance learning. What are the options for child care? Can I, as a school, become a licensed child care provider? Can I set up a room in my school to host children who can be under facilitated distance learning programs or kind of an extended school year, just to help your families? And the state is granting, I think granting waivers to licensing requirements. There's an understanding that there's an urgency in the community for childcare for families who have two working parents. And so she's encouraging any schools or potential childcare providers who want to learn more about the evolving guidance for childcare centers and what you need to do to be able to host one at your school site to join that meeting on next. So it's next Wednesday. Is it 6:30 in the evening? Is that right? Yeah. So, and there's a Zoom link there too. We'll send this out. This is up on our website as well. And the other thing I wanted to point out, and we haven't set the date yet, is that one of the guidelines around having a single point of contact, guideline number 4, it's basically a public health liaison at every school site. We will be coordinating a training there probably the second week of August. And as soon as we finalize that date with public health, we'll do that. So this is where at every school site, there's someone who's kind of in, probably a backup in every district, where if there is either a known or potential exposure to COVID-19 that staff all know they can come to, and they'll have a direct link with public health to ensure we're following the correct protocols in responding to that exposure or potential exposure and supporting contact tracing efforts by public health. So we'll get that out as soon as we finalize it as well. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for, taking the time on a Friday morning for this technical assistant workshop. We're planning on doing one more next Friday, and we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.